And now for another instalment of our road trip around the Malaysian peninsula. And so farewell, Janda Bike, as the army marches in and we head for the big city where we shall do some shopping and wear clothes that require pressing and ironing, and possibly there will be the drinking of alcohol involved. I hasten to add that the army marching in has got nothing to do with us marching out. We're obviously driving to where the money is in Malaysia. It's a city that grew up in the 1850s and essentially was started by Raja Abdullah, the Malay headman in the Klang Valley. He did a deal with Malaccan Chinese who brought in Chinese miners to mine the tin that they were finding there. And we find this story repeated all over Malaysia. The local Malay who controls the land does a deal with the Chinese who control the capital. As the possible wealth of the region becomes apparent, so competing factions scramble for its control. And we get the Selangor Civil War and various clashes among the Chinese, which of course attracts the attention of the British, who can see that there's no money to be made out of that unless they take over. The man who did that was British resident Frank Swettenham, partnered with the Capitan China Yapaloy. In 1886, Frank knew exactly what KL needed: margaritas with nachos, or perhaps a railway. With the event of the railway, the fate of KL was sealed.
And we are in Kuala Lumpur and we're going to visit the National Museum of Malaysia.
The National Museum in KL is a must-see. The story it tells is clear and concise, and despite the repeated refrain we've heard from Malaysians about how their history has been rewritten to exclude various groups from the national narrative, you don't get any sense of that here. It covers the ancient history of Buddhist and Hindu civilizations spreading around the Bay of Bengal all the way to the Philippines. It also deals with the increasing influence of Islam and the Malaccans' conversion. We come across the advent of European powers and the long list of power struggles between the Malay states, sometimes allied to the Portuguese and Dutch and sometimes fighting with them. Then there's the advent of the Buccaneers and then the British, and all the trials and tribulations associated with them. Then it deals with the Japanese invasion and the failed attempts of the British after the war to create a crown colony while tackling the Chinese-led communist insurgency. Finally, we come to Merdeka and the establishment of a nation emphatically for all its citizens, whether Chinese, Indian, Malay, or the various indigenous groups in Sarawak, Sabah, or the peninsula. And yes, the museum is a national mission statement, and you can debate whether the state has fulfilled all its promises, but there is no doubt that after hundreds of years of violent history, Malaysia has become a peaceful place to live in with a democratic government. One might say some ancient political behaviours still surface now and again, but it's not for me to comment. Our next stop after this is the Islamic Arts Museum. So please subscribe to this channel so that you can see what happens next at facebook.com/Lawrence and Helen.